Where's my face? Where's my face? Where is it? Huh? Oh, it's here. Okay. Jesus Christ. All right. Hold on, everybody. I'm in my... Okay. So for those of you that actually listen to the audio and don't just write down the notes, I hope you heard me asking where my face was. Welcome back. I'm Miss Andrews. You guys know who I am. This is actually the first time in the 25-26 school year that I am recording new notes. I've updated these for this year because some new information came out regarding... Whoa, what am I doing? Okay. Sorry. Some new information came out. What is this? Okay. Oh my God. I am having like the struggle of a lifetime. This is like the 5th time and the 3rd different software I've used. So I'm trying to like get used to it. I used this a few years ago and I don't know why I stopped, but anyway. Okay. We're doing Unit 4. We're doing some notes on biodiversity. We're taking notes on page 2, 4, 5, and the top of 6. I know it's a lot. I'm sorry, but not sorry because you signed up for this class and you're going to learn about biodiversity, and that is that. So let's go ahead and get started because I've been here already for an hour and I haven't recorded this video because it's not working and I want to go home. So today, we're going to talk about biodiversity as well as human impacts to biodiversity. Can I make my face smaller? I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it. Okay. So biodiversity is the variety of life on Earth. What's this? Wait, what? Never mind. Oh my goodness. Okay. Biodiversity is the variety of life on Earth. Diversity literally means different, variety, not the same. Bio means life. So biodiversity is literally the variety of life we have on Earth. Each biome, so jungles, deserts, tundras, tropical rainforests, grasslands, they're all going to have different levels of biodiversity, different amounts of life that live there. And each habitat is going to have different environmental pressures that determine what animals can and can't live there. And we'll talk more about that when we get to topic 4.6 on adaptations. I forget exactly which one it is, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So biodiversity is measured in a few different ways, and it's incredibly important in maintaining stable ecosystems, and we'll talk about that today. So how is biodiversity measured? Biodiversity is measured in 3 main ways, and one of them is separated into a few different subcategories. So genetic diversity is about the total number of genes and the different genes and traits present in an ecosystem. It's the different genotypes. So if you kind of forget what a genotype is, this is like the homozygous dominant, so like 2 of the same type of allele. Heterozygous would be 2 different, and then homozygous recessive would be 2 of the same, but they're recessive. So these are genotypes. This is what they're talking about for genetic diversity. It's what genes are present in the gene pool. And a few of you asked me, Miss, like what's a gene pool? Like an actual like pool? No, it's just what traits genetically are present in a particular area. And your genotypes are going to result in different phenotypes. So your phenotype is the physical manifestation. Sorry, that looks like mystical or whatever. That's the physical manifestation of the gene. So, for example, AA would be like brown eyes. Homozygous recessive would be blue, okay? And then heterozygous, because it has 1 copy of the dominant allele, would still be brown. So your genetic diversity isn't just what traits are being expressed, it's also what traits are being held in the gene pool. So for example, my hair is brown, my eyes are brown, but I am actually heterozygous for brown eyes because my mom had blue eyes. So it's not just what traits are physically being shown in an area, it's also what traits are present in the gene pool. How do I just had this earlier. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm learning. Habitat diversity is the different kinds of habitats in an area. So do you have trees? Do you have shrubs? Do you have rivers? Do you have lakes? What do you have in an area and what kind of life can it support? Species diversity, which is the one that's broken up into a few main different categories. Species richness is the total number of different species present in an area. So for example, in our classroom, we're doing the microhabitat experiment. So we have humans in our classroom, we have Elodia, and we have snails. That's 3 different species. Our species richness is a total of 3. It's a little weird way of doing it. 1, 2, 3. Now, as we're near the equator, where it's hotter because it's getting direct energy from the sun, we tend to have higher species richness. We tend to have more biodiversity. And as we go near the poles, near the North and South Pole, our species richness tends to decline because it's colder. Species evenness is the amount of a species in relation to another. So for example, if we have 30 kids in our classroom and also 30 snails, it's even. But if we have 30 humans and 50 snails, then the snails would be the dominant species. Species dominance is the most abundant, the most numerous species. So using these concepts, try this practice problem here, and I'm sorry that my face is kind of blocking it. Can I get rid of my face? Oh no, that just flips me. That's kind of weird. Let's do that. It's weird. Okay. Sorry that my face is kind of blocking it. Oops. Refer to the picture in your notes, and then we'll go over this in a second. So if we look at these communities, they both have a species richness of 4. They both have 4 different species present, species A, B, C, and D. And same thing here. Community number 2 both has 4 different species present, so they have the same species richness, but something about it is not right. Their evenness is not the same. If we look at the first community, their evenness, yes, is all 25%. But if we look at community number 2, they're not evenly distributed. A has the most abundant, the most numerous tree species. And that is going to then bring us into our next practice problem, which is going to be about, wait, I thought I was learning. Where's the next button? Oh no. Here we go. This brings us to our next question. Oh my goodness. Which is identify the dominant species in community number 2, which would be species A. And then a particular species of bird likes nesting in broad, fluffy leaf trees, like species A. Which community would have a higher population of these birds? Community number 2. I just realized I can press the next button rather than look for it. Oh goodness, it's been a long day. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how biodiversity plays a big role in species resilience and resistance. So natural and human disturbances will happen all of the time, and how an ecosystem responds is going to kind of determine how resilient and resistant it is, and its response is going to depend on how biodiverse the area is. So resistance is, can an ecosystem withstand a disturbance with little change? Whereas resilience is there will be some change or a lot of change, but the ecosystem will go back to its starting conditions before a disturbance. So for example, if a disease swept through both communities and only impacted tree A, which community would more be greatly impacted? The second community. It has more of tree A. It's going to lose a bunch of individuals if that disease is only impacting tree A. And we just said that that species of bird loves to nest in tree A. So if tree A disappears because it's wiped out through a disease, that bird is also going to potentially decrease in population because its habitat is being destroyed. So this is where biodiversity comes into play. And we said earlier, yes, they have the same richness, but now their evenness is not the same. So because the second community has more of one dominant tree, it potentially makes it more susceptible to diseases. So in every single ecosystem, there are consequences for the different types of diversity. High consequences are like good things, and low consequences are bad. So we'll talk a little bit more about these with more specific examples throughout the unit. So for now, kind of just jot down a few notes. Notice how for some of these, it's like totally open-ended of what you write. So this is where you should be learning to jot down notes in your own words, in your own way, in a way that makes sense to you. Okay, so let me move. Can I move my face? Why is this so difficult? I've never struggled so much in my whole life to do this before, but here we go. Okay, there's no good place for me to go. I'm sure while I'm moving my face around, you guys aren't even like listening to me, and you're just writing this down anyway. Okay, I'm gonna put it here. Okay. So in every ecosystem, we have species that live there, right? Unless it's a total barren wasteland. Now, when we have the species that live there, they are going to be defined into two main categories depending on the behavior of that animal in terms of how it can survive certain environmental conditions. So we have a generalist species and a specialist, and they're exactly what it sounds like. A generalist has a very broad range of tolerance, meaning that it can really live. What is happening? It could really live wherever. It has a wide ecological niche, which again is the role, the job, what it eats, where it lives, just its job in an ecosystem. It has a wide niche. It eats a variety of food. It can live in a variety of habitats. It's a generalist. Whereas a specialist has a very narrow ecological niche. It eats one or two types of food. It lives in a very particular climate, a very particular habitat, a very particular type of tree. That's a specialist. Now, ecological tolerance is the biotic and abiotic conditions an organism can withstand before experiencing stress. And we'll talk more about ecological tolerance later, but this is like the pH level, the temperature, the pressure, the salinity. What things can impact an organism and how well it can live in a particular area. So for example, organisms that live in the ocean, they're adapted to seawater, higher salinity, salt water. They cannot survive and thrive in freshwater and vice versa, okay? And you have some organisms that live in both fresh and salt water, like eels. Eels are generalist species. They lay their eggs, I think they lay their eggs in freshwater or saltwater, I don't remember, but they can live in both, okay? They can live in both types of water. Now, loss of habitat is the #1 driver of species extinction, and that makes sense. If an organism is adapted to live in its habitat, and its habitat goes away because of development, because of climate change, because of sea level rise, because of deforestation, where does that organism go? Look at what's happening to the polar bears. Polar bears are adapted to this cold climate. And we see polar bears are now having to go more south each year as their climate, the Arctic, is melting due to climate change. So while generalist species are more resilient to changes in their environment because they have this broader just conditions they can live in, habitat loss is still the number one driver of species extinction. And that's a really important thing for you to remember and keep in your back pocket, because it's a main concept in AP Environmental Science. So deforestation, climate change, ocean warming, all things we'll talk about more later, these all result in massive changes in the habitat and thus the abiotic and biotic factors driving species to extinction. So you might be thinking, well, why do I care about any of this? And that's a fair question. Can I move my dang face? Please. Let me move it. Please let me move my face. No. No. Why can't I move it? I'm gonna crash out. Okay, that says medicine, food sources, and stable ecosystems. And just like we talked about earlier with the disease introduction, so if we look here at this graph, this is showing us how stable an ecosystem is in relation to the number of plant species, number of different plants. So the more plants that we have, the more stable an ecosystem is. And same thing over here. This is stability in terms of predators. Even the more plants that you have, the more stable the predators are. Even though predators don't necessarily eat plants, predators still eat herbivores. So they need to eat those primary consumers, and primary consumers need to eat the producers. So more variety, more stability. Oops. What am I doing? This is like the video lesson from hell. Okay, so there's other reasons too why we should care about biodiversity other than food and medicine and ecosystem stability. There are just ethical reasons, like the belief that all life on Earth deserves to exist. Like, humans inherently, as we know, are very selfish creatures, and some of us, I hope at some point most of us, have this belief that everybody, all life on Earth deserves to be here, and we need to protect its biodiversity, not just because of ecosystem stability, but because this is our life on our planet. We're the only place that we know of in this entire universe that is home to life. It's just us. And we're destroying that precious life that took billions of years to evolve. We're destroying it every single day. And it is truly, truly, truly heartbreaking and upsetting. There are also theological reasons. Some religions really value nature and its diversity, particularly the religions or lifestyle or cultures of the Native Americans that were here first. Ecological reasons, same thing regarding to ecosystem stability. We'll talk more about keystone species later. And then aesthetic reasons. This is the cultural services that we talked about when we went over ecosystem services. Certain species are just cute and pretty. My favorite species, besides the one I'm about to talk about, is an otter. And they're just so cute. And they're currently, some of them are on the endangered species list. And I believe that we have the right to protect them. So, oh, this is my fun slide that I added. So this guy right here, this is Miss Andrews' favorite animal. This is a tardigrade, and this is not a real image. This is like definitely some kind of CGI image of a tardigrade. I'll show you a real picture in a second. But this little guy is so incredibly cool. Biodiversity doesn't just exist on a macro scale. Life on Earth is also applicable to bacteria and eukarya, and archaea, which is stuff that you probably don't even remember from general bio, and that's okay. But a lot of our life that is diverse is present under a microscope that we can't even see, and that includes this little guy right here called the tardigrade. So these three are real images. The tardigrade is also known as a water bear or a moss piglet. It is by far my favorite creature organism on this planet. I have a tardigrade little thingy in my bookcase right here that my son got me. These are microscopic invertebrates. They don't have a spine, and they are extremophiles, meaning that they can survive in immense pressure and heat, and they can enter this dormant state called cryptobiosis, where they essentially pause all of their metabolism, and they can essentially survive radiation and the vacuum of space. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, like, life is just so cool, and evolution took millions and millions of years, and the fact that this universe exists to begin with is just so mind-boggling. And whether you are somebody that believes in a higher thing or not, it's how can you not deny the undeniable just beauty of the world around you? Like, how could you? And life is all around us, and I do believe that we have this moral obligation to protect it and nurture it and foster it, and that's why I'm an AP environmental science teacher. We only have discovered 2 million species. Every single year we estimate that we get about 15 to 18,000 more, but the estimates of how many different species are on Earth are between 5 million and 100 million. But most scientists would agree that the total number of species is about 10 million different species. And we haven't even discovered all of them yet. And I think all the time, how many are we, like, purposefully and unintentionally causing to go extinct because of our activity? This is the total number of different identified species. About half the species, if not half, of what we've identified and named are insects. So a ton of bugs. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to take a pause this video here. It took a little bit longer than I anticipated it to. I'm kind of like on a little crazy tangent mood. Okay, if you guys have any questions about this, let me know. In the next video, we will talk about topics 4.2, which is how we, of course, are doing everything to mess all of this up and what we're now trying to do to protect our environment. If you guys need anything, I will see you in class, or email me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.